I'm Cindy Bokser, and you are listening to the Fiber Artist Podcast, where we chat with artists, makers, and creatives who work with fiber, get to know their stories, how they came upon their fiber practice, and more about the person behind the work. Hello? Hi, are you out there? It's me, Cindy. It's hard to believe, but I guess it's been about 18 months since I last recorded an episode, which is really me saying that it's been about that long since I've had an in-depth one-on-one conversation. This pandemic has been so weird and so tough on so many people. We discussed it a little bit on this episode, how it's affected us personally and emotionally. And I have to tell you, I have really been dragging my feet on releasing this episode. And it's not because of the conversation or that it was bad or anything like that. It's quite the opposite. I love the conversation we had. But I have not wanted to record this intro. The thing is that I have been wanting to be more transparent with you since you spend a lot of time listening and getting to know me and my guests. So I guess here goes. I found out about 2 weeks ago, which is just a few days after we recorded this pod, I found out that a childhood friend of mine died. And then I found out that she took her own life. And it completely rocked my world because it was so unexpected. I had no idea that she suffered from debilitating depression. She seemed really quite happy and bubbly on Facebook. And that's the only way I'd actually kept in touch with her since we were little. It just really seemed to come out of left field because I didn't have a real-time connection with her. And it got me thinking about how we can never truly know anyone or what's going on in their interior, but that we can try and listen and reach out more, especially in real life, reach out to friends and family that we haven't been talking to, or just people that you've lost connection with. And it also occurred to me that so many of us use our fiber practice as a form of healing, a way to self-soothe or a form of self-care, that maybe you might be hurting and struggling. And especially now with crazy, I don't know, what's happening in the world, uncertainty about the future, climate change, or COVID and isolating because of the pandemic, who knows? There's so many reasons. But, I know it's been a particularly hard and stressful time. And I've been thinking about how I can be of help or service. And I'm just hoping, I guess, that this podcast is comforting for you. And I'm hoping that I can be more diligent about recording episodes and reaching out to people that I've been wanting to talk to. I'm hoping these conversations that I have here will help you feel connected in a way that makes you feel less alone. And, if you have any sherries, if you have any stories or you want to share, or you have questions you'd like to ask, shoot me an email at thefiberartistpodcast@gmail.com. Fiber is spelled with an ER, not the French or European way. It's thefiberartistpodcast@gmail.com. And now today's guest is the wonderful Ashton Zager. You might recognize her from Instagram or from one of her many weaving classes. She has a fabulous ebook called Weaving in the Round, and she's working on a second book. You can actually get early access to the content she's creating for it from on her Patreon, along with a host of other awesome offerings like a one-on-one weaving help or business coaching. A lot of you also might know that Ashton went through something extremely traumatic about 2 years ago, and we talk a little bit about that. And there's also a part where I was going to cut it out because this was supposed to be released earlier, but now that she's announced it, I don't have to cut it out, so you can hear everything that we chat about as if no one was listening. But so anyway, without further ado, Ashton Zager. You can reach her at AshtonZagerFiberArt.com, on Instagram at AshtonZagerFiberArt, and on Patreon at patreon.com/AshtonZagerFiberArt. I hope you enjoy our conversation.
But I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm going to do all that. You know what? I'm rusty and nervous, to be completely honest. because I haven't really talked to another human in a year and a half. I mean, that's what it feels like, right?
Yes, it does. Except when we got on, I was like, this is actually our first time chatting, isn't it? And it didn't feel that way. So
Totally. I know. It's weird because I obviously I feel like I know you through Instagram and
yes.
But I will say lately I don't know. Instagram is so weird. So I kind of post and run. I feel a little bad about that, but it's just like I don't know. I feel very overwhelmed by it. You know, and like guilty in a way because I feel like I'm not paying enough attention to people, but also if I spend all my time there, then I feel really crappy. So it's really hard to balance, which, you know, we can get into all that. I mean, we've basically started. We're recording. We've been recording since the beginning, which I hope is okay with you. We used to do this whole thing where I would clap and start it, but now I just kind of feel like coming in organically is better.
Yes, so, yeah. I feel that and agree.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel somewhat similarly to social media. I definitely go in and out in waves, like where it's like Instagram is really fun and then Instagram is really taxing. And yeah, I just like sometimes I feel like an a-hole sometimes. I'm like, sometimes I do feel like investing in people and having conversations, and sometimes I don't care about anyone.
Yeah. No, that's completely it, though. I mean, I guess that's just a part of being human, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
we're
I don't know.
Not always going to have the capacity to
engage.
I don't know, like engage. Yeah. And like invest in people that aren't in your actual real life face.
I know. It's really weird. But there was definitely a time where I was so happy being on it all the time. And I feel like, I don't know, I just don't feel like I have that much more, like that much to say anymore. I don't know what it is. Which I guess is this whole pandemic too. So I was looking back at the dates from my last, welcome to the Fiber Artist Podcast, which hasn't been recorded in a year and a half. And thank you, Ashton, for being the first person to come back during this relaunch
this
or whatever.
Is like almost a career dream. Like I've loved this podcast for forever. So I'm honored. Thanks for asking.
Oh my God, of course. I have to be honest. I've been thinking about it for a really long time that I've been wanting to talk to you. But I also know that there are going to be some topics that are really sensitive and hard, and I didn't know if you'd be ready to talk about anything. But you know, I think that a lot of people would love to hear what's going on with you and your story and your whole journey, because it's been such an incredible thing to watch, mainly for me on Instagram, because you're such an open book. But I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you also keep, you know, private too. But God, so where do we even start? Well, first up top,
I don't even know.
Why don't you first, up top, we'll do the official stuff. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Ashton Zager Fiber Art. I have a website, ashtonzagerfiberart.com, and I have a Facebook, but I don't really mess with the Facebook. All my Instagram stuff just kind of goes on to that. So It's mainly Instagram where you can find me.
Great. And I think I've known of your work. I was trying to think back, like maybe 2017. So I moved to, this is how everything in my life is separated from like when I lived in Jersey City to when I moved to Sparta. So like we moved in October 2017 to Sparta. So I feel like I knew of you right around then. But
that sounds right. I started weaving in 2015. But it was like December 2015, and I probably didn't start playing with like rope and stuff until late 2016. So 2017 probably really was like the first time I made a purchase from you or something like that.
Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah, I don't know if it was a purchase, but I think like when people start to gain some traction on Instagram, and then, you know, like you just see people.
Yeah.
But okay, well, so let's go back to 2015. How did you end up getting into weaving and your fiber art practice?
I found weaving on Pinterest. It was a very random endeavor. I was making Christmas presents and wanted to make like a little crafty something for everybody that was different. And I decided to make a wall hanging for my sister. And I found this tutorial. It was actually written by Rachel Denbo.
Nice.
And it was on A Beautiful Mess. She like writes for them sometimes, but yeah, so I didn't even know that it was Rachel Denbo until like, I don't know, a year or so into weaving. And I was like, I should look back so that I can credit that person. And I was like, oh, it's Rachel Denbo. And I love her work. And that's so funny that she was the writer.
I know. Yeah, I didn't know about her A Beautiful Mess stuff until I interviewed her for this podcast. And I was like, wait a minute. Because she sort of founded it, the site with them. So yeah. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, that was just kind of it. I went to make one weaving for a Christmas present and I really enjoyed it. And so I kept making them, and 6+ years later, here we are.
Yeah, I know. Right. Can you believe it's been that long?
No, I actually can't, because I can't believe I've been an adult that long.
I know.
And that's really what it was. I was 22 when we started, so I guess I'm 29 now.
Oh my God.
I don't know. Time.
You're a baby.
I am a baby.
I know you're an adult, but for an old lady like me,
I'm an adult
like
baby. It's okay. Young. I feel that way.
Oh my gosh. So were you working at the time, or was this like, did you end up just going fully into weaving, or how did it work?
Oh no. Yeah. I was working as a chef at a Young Life camp, here in Asheville. And yeah, it for sure was not like, at first it wasn't even anything that I thought I would make money off of. It was just a fun new little hobby that I was doing. And then, I did like a pop-up like 6 months in at a West Elm outlet here. Because I'd seen another fiber artist do that. And I was like, that would be so cool to sit in a West Elm and sell my weavings. I wouldn't have even called it my work yet, or like my art yet. I would have been like, my weavings, my things that I make. And then, yeah, I went kind of full time when my older son, Louis, was 8 months old, which would have been May 2017. Yes, Louis about to turn 5. So May 2017, I left that job as a chef at the Young Life camp, and decided to go all in. The business was not it was not at that time producing anything that gave me a reason to try to think that it would be a legitimate income, but I wanted it to be. And I wanted to be home with Louis, and that job was it just wasn't working anymore for me. And so it was more of just a big, I can't keep doing what I'm doing, more than it was like, I want to move on to something else. It was like, I just have to stop this and hope for this other thing. And, I feel like most of that first year of pursuing it full time, I still wasn't profiting much. I mean, I might profit a couple $100 a month, but it was just a year of investing time, money, energy, ideas. I also got pregnant again during that year on accident with Hank, my younger. So obviously that first year was like a really, really big year. And then when Hank was born, things were kind of turning to be more legitimate. That's when I wrote my ebook, Weaving in the Round. I wrote it and produced it while I was pregnant with him, and then I launched it November 2018, because that was just a couple months after he was born. And
I cannot believe, first of all, that you had what do we call it? Is it grit?
Nerve.
I don't know. No, it's not nerve. I mean, how did you even think it would be possible? Because those things feel insurmountable when you look at them just from like the big picture. It's like, oh my God, how would I put out a book? How would I self-publish all this stuff? So what made you, I don't know, what sort of lit the fire under your ass to make that happen?
Well, you have to remember, the weaving world was not what it is right now, even then. I feel like I came into weaving game just after some of the big guys did. Hello Hydrangea, Marianne Moody, like just a year or two after they did. But even so, they weren't necessarily like Instagram famous yet.
Right.
So I like started just after they did, but obviously they were moving at a pace where they went way past me. And then, so I think I was just kind of looking at those people, and I didn't feel that I was too far behind them. I was, but also it wasn't so explosive that it is now. So I think that there was a little bit of that. Like, I still felt like the pool was not ginormous.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave me a little bit of, I don't know, nerve, like to think that I don't know, that I could have a name in the game. I think that if I was starting nowadays, it would feel totally different. It would definitely feel like so many things had already been done, but there were things that hadn't been done yet. There weren't a million ebooks. There weren't people. I mean, like, there weren't that many published books. I feel like so many people have come and made actual published books in the last 5 years.
Oh yeah.
And that wasn't really happening yet. This was before Hello Hydrangea had made her books, like her physical books. She'd made, I think, just like 1 or 2 of her ebooks. Now she has a gajillion, but she wasn't there yet. And so it was still this new thing. I felt like I could put some skin in the game. And also I started with round weaving, and no one was really doing that.
Yeah.
Rainy of Unusual Pair had just released her round weaving looms, which was the first time I had ever seen round weaving at all. And I remember I purchased one of those looms. I made a round weaving within an hour of getting it because I was so excited to try it. I posted on Instagram and someone bought it within another hour. And that was an incredible feeling.
That's awesome. That's when you know, like, you're like, I have something. I have something here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And now I'm like, weaving wasn't even good. It was like a close friend that bought it from me. But like, that action mattered so much. Like, it probably gave me a not real level of confidence, like a confidence that was not based on something that was as huge as I felt that it was, but it felt huge. And
I had the same experience with a friend commissioning a work really early on, and I was like, really? And then and that was, and but you're right, it is significant, even if it's a friend, whatever, it is real, you know. And it just, you
like
need that little boost of confidence. Exactly. It validates you, and it gives you that boost of confidence to say, you know what, I do think I have something here.
Yes. Yeah. And then I taught round weaving in person, which was also sort of coincidental. I have a friend that runs women's retreats, and she asked if I would teach at one of her events, but I had a really short time frame. I think I had like an hour and a half. And so I was like, well, I don't want to teach regular weaving because that's just not enough time. I'm going to go with round weaving. And teaching that in-person workshop, I was like, this is actually so nice to introduce someone who's brand new, never done any weaving, isn't even actually interested in it. They were just here for the retreat. And this workshop was kind of forced onto them. It just came with the package. But people loved it and really enjoyed it. And they were proud of themselves. They were like, I would have never thought to do something like that. And you made it so easy. And that was such a great feeling. And so at that workshop, I was like, I'm going to write an ebook. I've been like thinking about doing that because I just think it's a smart like business thing. I'm seeing a couple people do it. I'm going to write an ebook on round weaving. No one has that yet. So all of that is kind of, you know, it's like a million events that pushed me onto that path and made it feel just right. And I, to this day, still only have the one dang ebook. I should have made more by now, but they're so much work. And in that, I'm like, that idea came in the right season, like when I had the right time, the right energy, the right friends that were available to help me produce it. Now those same friends are like, I can't do that again. I don't got the time. And I'm like, that's okay. So yeah, all of this time later is why there's a lot of reasons why it hasn't happened yet.
I think,
it's happening.
It takes so much time and work that I don't know that everybody realizes, because they're like, oh, you know, it's an ebook. You take some pictures, but it takes a really long time.
Yeah.
Actually, how, like, from planning it for you, like, to launch, how long did that take? If you can even think back that far.
Um, Probably it was about 6 or 7 months.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I wrote it just in like 2 days, but like the months before that, even coming up with the table of contents, like deciding, okay, am I going to walk them through one project or am I just going to throw out a bunch of skills? Like thinking through, like, what do I even want, like the format of this to be? I did end up deciding to walk them through one project. And then it was like, well, what skills are feasible for someone brand new? That's what I wanted, is like someone who had zero experience, had never even touched yarn, perhaps. And, this can be giftable. This can be basically the person who I was when I stumbled into weaving. Like I wanted to create for that person. To be able to jump in and enjoy it. And so with that, it's like you come up with what skills you want them to learn, but it can't be too much. Like if there's too many stitches, then it's going to be, I don't know, too complicated. And they're going to be like, that was fun, but I can't do that again. Like I wanted it to be digestible. And so, yeah, I wrote it within 2 days, but it was months for that, like to even get to that point to decide this is what's going to be included. And then to think through, like, again, this person knows nothing. So like what words are going to like help them be able to do this? What words are too much? Like, yeah, it's just, there's a lot of thinking that goes through that and how to communicate and then how to like shoot the videos.
So did you have people helping you with the videos?
I did. Yeah. Someone recorded it, but they weren't necessarily directing me like I was directing. They just had the right camera and they edited it afterwards. And they put it in a PDF and took the pictures and all of that. So yeah, the next ones I'm recording them, the videos, and doing all the voiceovers myself. I launched a Patreon recently to kind of help me afford the time to do that. Because I've been dragging my feet on it all this time. And I was like, the reason why it's happening so slowly is because I don't get paid for the production.
Of course.
Like it's all investment. And all the while I'm like trying to support my family. And so there's only going to be so many hours in the month unless I figure out another way to do that. So I launched my Patreon, to help afford the time to do that. And with that, my patrons get access to the videos as I make them instead of them waiting. Yeah.
What a good idea. Fun. Oh, so, okay. So you have definitely launched, like you've announced the next book and all that kind of stuff. So can you talk about that a little?
Sure.
Get people excited?
Yeah, so I'm kind of doing two at once. The second one will be an intermediate level round weaving course, and we'll probably go through 2 or 3 round weavings, because it's like, this isn't the basics. This is like, you've already mastered that and you're moving forward. So it'll include some more complex stitches, of course. But then it's also going to cover some technique tips and, like round weaving like this is a problem that's common. Here's how you try to avoid that, or here's how you fix it. Like kind of fine tune and build on the skills that you've already encountered. And that's fun, but it's actually been way more difficult than a beginner one, because it's like, you're not starting with someone that knows something. You're starting with some people who know some and some people who know a lot. And like, how do I please all of those different people? And give them something of value. So it's actually also going to be like twice as big as my first one.
Wow.
Because I was pretty sure I wasn't going to do a third round weaving one. Like this is a pretty niche thing. 2 is probably going to be enough. And then the third one will be a beginner level tapestry weaving. So that one will feel similar to my beginner round weaving one and will include some of the same stitches, but it'll be cool to be able to articulate, like, yes, the stitch is the same, but also like, here's how it's not the same. Like, here's how it will feel different. Here's how you have to be careful with your tension here. Whereas in round weaving, you don't, because it's all done on this sturdy frame.
Right. Right.
And
There's no
you just
puckering and
don't
weird
have to.
spots. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so, yeah, I'm kind of filming those at the same time because they're both already written and I want to get them done ASAP. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Cool. I didn't, because I guess because I'm not paying attention to Instagram that much, I didn't realize you had launched a Patreon. So I'm really glad you get to talk about it on the pod.
Yeah.
And a Patreon, and that you were working on it next couple books. So that's awesome.
Thanks. I really hope that they'll be done by the end of the year. We'll see.
Yeah.
And I have a love for them too.
Wait, so for the first book, did you launch before you had Hank, or?
I launched right after he was born, but I filmed it and wrote it and all of that before he was born. So before he was born, I had handed it off to my friends to like produce the PDF and make it look pretty and all of that. Okay. And that took them a couple months because they were having a baby at the same time as me.
Wow.
And yeah, they were due like within 2 weeks of each other. So it took them a couple months to get it done, understandably.
Of course.
And then, yeah, I launched, I think it was December 1st, 2018. That's when it dropped. Mm-hmm. Nice. So Hank was born late August, so he would have been a couple months old.
Okay. And how was the reception of when you launched? Like, I know that launching anything is the most nerve-wracking thing because you sit there being like, is nobody going to see this or care or, and you, of course, you have like the highest hopes for it. So how did it go?
It was crickets, but honestly, my following wasn't super grand. I mean, I think I did not even have 10,000 followers yet, which nowadays means even less, but then it actually meant a little more. I was probably hanging out around 8,000. So I remember I got 11 pre-orders for it because, I talked it up and I sold it at like a special rate before it launched. And I got 11 pre-orders, which I was very excited about.
Yeah,
because
actually,
I was like,
that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, like it was going to be embarrassing if I got none. And I was like, I got more than 10. I got more than 10 people that were interested in this. And yeah, I wasn't naive to the fact that I wasn't a large name yet, or even a significant name in the game.
But I think that that's even better in a way, like at least for talking about it now and giving people hope and inspiration, because like we're like, yeah, obviously people who have a gazillion followers, who have a huge name, like, like how Hydrangea or Marianne Moody or whoever, obviously when they launch something, you think, okay, it's going to be sold out immediately, yada, yada. But you with 10,000, less than 10,000 at the time, and your 11 pre-orders, do you feel like then it was one of those things where it just continued to grow organically and it's had a longer life than you thought, or, because
it was like, it was like drip, 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 boom, for sure. I mean, I would sell, I wish that I could look back at the exact numbers, but I remember I always would text my husband, Casey, when we sold an ebook, and I would send him a twerking gif, and I just text him the number, like ebook number 54, twerking gif. It was like our thing. Now I have stopped keeping track. I could look at my website stats and know, but sadly I don't text him every time. And I think of that and I'm like, I should go back to texting him, like celebrating it in the way that we used to. But yeah, I mean, I would sell maybe 5 a month, ebooks. And actually until like January 2020 was like my ebook and my weaving kit explosion. Yeah, I think it was like New Year's energy plus Christmas money was insane. And
nice. Yeah, that makes sense. The holidays. Do you feel like you were promoting it more, or it just sort of happened?
I think it just sort of happened. It was just the right timing. I was always kind of chatting about it. I'd also done 2 Pinners conferences.
I wanted to talk to you about those.
Yeah. In 2019, I did my first one in April in Atlanta, and then I did my second one in September in Dallas. And they invited me to do a Pinners conference as just like a vendor. It was like December 2018. I have no idea how they found me, probably just Instagram. And when they asked me to be a vendor, I I had never heard of them. So I looked at the website and I was like, oh, you guys teach classes too. Like, can I come teach a class? And they're like, oh, we didn't know you taught. Yeah, here's our availability.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I taught one class at my first one. I taught one class at my second one too. But I think, yeah, those events kind of helped me gain a little traction, just meeting so many people. And I, like in Atlanta, that first one I taught like 50 people at a time. And then in the second one in Dallas, I taught like 125. And
wow, that
was
huge.
super cool. Huge.
How do you even get materials prepared for all of that? Did you drive down to each one? And because, I'm like, how do you fly with all that stuff? Wait, okay. So tell me about pinners in general, because I've also been, they've contacted me and I'm always just like, oh no, I don't know. It just feels really overwhelming. And I don't know that much about the conference. So can you just like give us a quick rundown about what it is? Like, what are the other vendors, and is it just a regular sort of fair, or what is it?
No, okay. It's like the Jurassic Park of craft fairs. Like, it's insane. It is the sizes of the venues are insanely huge. The amount of people that come through is insanely huge. It's 2 days long. And their thing is like, it's Pinterest come to life. And that's literally what it is. So everything that you would see on Pinterest, from like fashion to cooking to sewing to weaving to how to throw a dinner party, how to throw
tablescapes and like
yes, like everything. There's those types of classes. All of them are free. They like, you buy your ticket and you can kind of decide like, I don't want to go to any classes, or I want to go to 2, or I want to pass to go to as many as I want, or whatever. But then each class, like, may or may not have a kit that comes with it. So when I go, I don't actually pay, or I don't get paid for people attending the class. I just get paid if they buy my kit while they're there, which most people do. I've had like a couple people that will come and watch, and they figure out pretty quickly like, oh, this is kind of useless unless I buy the kit.
So is it more like, they don't? So for a class, you're just doing a demonstration. It's not like everybody's weaving along, or?
No, I'm walking them through it.
Okay. So you do have to have you sort of have to have a kit available for everyone who wants to do it, and they'll buy it. It's a requirement. Like, you sign a contract saying like, hey, your classroom potential size is like 215. You sign this thing saying that you will bring 215 kits. Wow.
To be honest, I don't, because I learned. I mean, my first one, I think my classroom size was like 105. And like I said, I had like 50 people come. And that is going to be normal for me at Pinners. But that's because my classes are probably at the top of intimidation level. I'm not going to say skill level. I'm just going to say intimidation level, because it's different. It's not watercolor or like painting a wooden sign. Like, like, it looks intimidating. I know that it's not. I know that it is easier to catch on to.
Probably easier than doing watercolor and painting a sign.
For sure.
Like, painting intimidates me more than other things, but
yeah, especially the projects that I teach. Like, they're not really abstract. It's pretty like step by step.
Yeah.
Anyhow, because of that, I know like I'm not actually going to sell out a class. I'm probably going to get half, maybe 2/3.
Okay.
And so I save myself a little money, and I don't. But if ever I run out of kits, I'm going to be in trouble. So I'm not actually advising that. I'm just being honest.
Just saying. Yeah. Wow. That's like so many people to teach at one time. I can't even.
Yes.
50 is a lot. 100, 200. I cannot imagine having to walk around doing that, because there's always someone, at least, the macrame teachers classes that I've taught have been like, 12 people or whatever, but there's always one or two who can't get it. And that holds up the entire class. But what's good is that the people who do get it then end up just taking other people through it.
Yes. And I experienced a little bit of that too. I actually taught a macrame keychain one in April in Atlanta. That was way more difficult than the weaving projects that I've taught. Yeah, because I don't know, like,
it's the knotting, it's the square knot. Getting a hang of the square knot is really hard for some people.
Yeah,
because it is. It's like you have to use like right brain, left brain in a way, like, and get those all to work together. You're getting your hands to work together, and it's hard for people to always do the second step. Yeah. So I guess it is kind of more difficult. I don't know. Maybe more difficult. I don't know.
It's just totally different. I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, like this is more difficult because it's like you have to be able to feel what's correct.
Right.
You
And
can't
see
always
it.
articulate that.
And see it, which is also kind of hard to see unless you're accustomed to doing it over and over again. You know, it's one of those things you just say you have to practice it. And then it'll become this thing you can do while watching TV. And everyone's like, no way.
Yes.
But that's how I feel about knitting. Like I can't watch TV and knit at the same time because I will always miss a thread or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. So you did Pinterest twice. Have you been teaching lately?
I have not. I am about to do some Zoom workshops this fall.
Oh, nice.
I went to Pinners in April and I did 2 Pinners this past November. And before that, I had done a couple of Zoom workshops in the fall, but I haven't done an in-person workshop other than Pinners.
Yeah, I guess COVID killed all of that. I have to say, I was a little relieved. I mean, like last spring and summer, it was just such a good way to get out of everything that and it's weird because like I really enjoy teaching when I'm done with it, but I still get nervous before I have to do a class and, prepping for everything. And, it's so weird. Like, but afterward, I always feel awesome about it. And I'm like, that was so fun. I should do that more. But then somebody asked me to do a class. I'm like, oh no, I really don't want to do it. But yeah, I don't know. I guess this whole last year and a half was a really weird experience. I'll ask you first. How has your last year and a half been?
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. So we'll just get it out on the table.
Yes.
My younger son, Hank, passed away September 2019. People listening to this podcast may or may not know that. And so having that happen, Hank not being sick, like it being a freak accident and just all of the trauma from that. And then walking into COVID 6 months later was nuts. Like it was a blessing and it was a curse. It was like,
because you couldn't take your mind off. You're just sitting at home. Yeah.
Sitting at home and like all of my like coping mechanisms, like all of my friends, that were in it with me, and I could say, I'm having an awful day. Can Louie and I come over and Louie and your kid play? Like I couldn't do that for a little while. Mind you, at the same time, because we're psychos, Casey, my husband, we decided that he would quit his job and come home. This was literally right before pandemic hit. We made this decision
like
early
February.
March.
Oh God.
Yeah, like February, we were thinking about it. Beginning of March, we were like, we're going to do it. You're going to quit your job. You're going to come home. I'm going to, do weaving full time. And he was also he started taking over making our kits.
Okay. Was he
all of the manual labor?
Was he traveling a lot with his job, or was he?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. But that like family change after this other family change, stepping into COVID, that's just a lot. That's a lot of change and a lot of loss in a lot of ways. So yeah, in some ways, pandemic was like more. I'm going to lose more. I'm going to, how much can you take? I had my first real panic attack when pandemic hit, and it was just that. It was like my brain cannot compute like more trauma, more all of a sudden change, more
like loss of everything,
fear. Yeah, like when Hank died, one of the things that I kept saying was like the world is not actually any less scary on this side of things. Like my people in our fragility we were fragile before, like children are fragile before. And then this freak accident happened. My child died. It didn't actually make the world feel more unsafe to me because I was like, no one made a mistake. Yeah. Like this just happened. And I'm probably not articulating this super smoothly, but I was determined to not be more afraid of life and of the world. I was like, things happen. That was always true. I just know it differently.
Yeah.
Because it happened to me. And then a pandemic hits.
Yeah.
And it was like, wait, the world wasn't supposed to get scarier. This
or more
world
uncertain.
has actually changed.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't supposed to happen. So I can't compute.
No, I know.
And
I cannot fathom. Like, because I was going to ask, like, you literally went through, I think, what people, or at least what parents fear the most is having a child die. Yes, I don't know. I was going to ask you, and I guess you may have just answered it, that like the thing about fear, that like if you have the worst case scenario happen in your life, then what happens after that? Like, do you then go, you know what, carpe diem, fuck everything, do everything you're going to do because you just can't, like, you know what I mean? Like, do you just say like, screw it all and get rid of all that fear? Or is it more scary? You know, because
both.
Then you're like, is the danger infinite out there, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's both. It's like, for example, right now, pandemic seems to be gearing up even more, right? And I feel like I've heard a lot of people say like, but when kids are getting it, they're having mild, experiences with it. The kids are fine. And I'm like, well, hi, I live on the other side of a 1 in a bajillion experience.
Yeah.
That does nothing for me. That is not comforting for me. So it's both. Like sometimes and in some situations, I can't be comforted in the normal way of comforting because I can't let go of the fact that like freak things do happen. And then other things do seem to feel softened. Other things do seem to be like, that's not really much to me because I've been through worse. Or at least it's not that it's nothing. It's that I know that I'm capable of it. I know that I can handle it because I've handled worse. That's what it is. I've become a lot more bold of a person. And what I feel like I've processed about that is like, I'm still me. I still kind of have the same mission. I still believe a lot of the same things, but I'm less apologetic about it. I think that is maybe like the fuck everything part of that is like, I don't care. I don't care about so many things. And I am often so much less timid because I'm like, there's just bigger things out there. There's more important things out there. There's bigger losses to be had. And I don't know, all of that is maybe a little bit vague, but it's just both. Like, yes, I am more fearful in certain I can't even say like in certain ways because it's inconsistent. It's like, depends on the day, the hour, but what I ate that morning. Like, of course. I'm not one thing all of the time. And sometimes I am more afraid and sometimes I'm not.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm less afraid.
Yeah, no, obviously after Hank died, I think a lot of us, in a lot of ways, I would check in on you on Instagram just by whatever you're posting, whatever you're talking about. And I found your words are so articulate and beautiful, the way that you're expressing your grief and anger and sadness and all the feelings that you're going through. And like, I don't know where I'm going with this. I think I just wanted to tell you that, but yeah, I don't know. Do you have any plans to like write a personal book, like not having to do with fiber art? Because I think
I do somewhat. It's an idea that I'm terrified of, but that I think I'm a writer. I always have been. I just kind of didn't really know it. Like when I think of when I was a kid, like I was always a journaler. I think I've always processed through writing. I'm not necessarily a verbal processor, but I do process through writing and journaling and sharing. And so that was a thing when Hank died. And it was less of a decision as much as it was just pouring out of me. And so then having a place to put it, like to share it on the internet and to have engagement and to feel that people care, like to hear people like further validate my processes, like that was a gift and something that I continue to do. And it's like, I wish that I could say that my first motive was some noble thing, like to help people and to normalize for other people. That's there a little bit. Honestly, the number one is for me, is that it's good for me.
Yeah.
Like to put it somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Uh-oh, I think you're frozen. Hold on.
It's like, well, that's really...
Sorry, you were frozen for
Hello?
a minute.
Oh.
Am I freezing now? Okay.
So I don't know where... you're not. Okay. I just heard like a bloop bloop. I don't know what you didn't hear, but I had people early on saying, you know, your writing's good. You should write a book. I was very shy of that idea. I was like, no, I can't actually write a book. I just write Instagram captions. But the idea has grown. I'm super intimidated by it, but I am writing a book. I have no idea when it's going to be finished. For a very long time, I was just writing and writing and writing and writing. And I was like, I think this might be a book one day. I don't know what the title is. I don't know like what the format of it is. I'm just going to write until that comes to me. I did land on a title probably sometime last summer and like had a general idea of like, oh, okay, so like, I think this is what it's about. It's about our family. It's not just about my son died. Mm-hmm. It is about Hank, but it's also about us, and all of the things that go into it, you know, my faith, my counseling, like just loss and grief. And these are the ways we do it right. These are the ways we do it wrong. Yeah. And me, I mean, really, it's a story of me.
Yeah, of course.
It's a story of me, and that includes my family and all of that. But, yeah, I just like 2 months ago was able to like chapter 1, chapter 2. And that's the way that it's coming to me. It's just like chapter by chapter, like, oh, that's going to come next. Oh, I think I've already written about that. Let me go find that and pull it in. It's a mess.
Yeah. No, well, it'll come together. Have you ever heard of the website Modern Loss?
I follow them on Instagram.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. A girl I went to school with is one of the like founders of that website, because her like right after we graduated school, or it must have been right after, she lost both her parents like in like a double murder in New York. It was it's crazy. But I think, you know, ever since then, this has been like really the focus of her life. But I was thinking, you should like submit an essay just to get it started. You know what I mean? Where you're just taking like one little portion of what you're thinking and whatever. But if you want me to connect you guys, I will. She and I don't talk that much, but she at least knows who I am and like whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that would be like such a good like sort of stepping stone into the world of the published writing world, you know?
Yeah, that would be very cool. I would like that.
Yeah, I want to talk about like boldness with your openness on Instagram, and I get that it is therapeutic for you. I don't know, it's like one of my biggest fears, that, and I think that's why I'm quieter on Instagram. The way I've become is like I've become a lot more timid the more followers I have, because I don't know what it is. It's like I've become more private, and this is the time, if I wanted to like get more followers and get more, I don't know, customers even for the, you know, for the shop, it would be to open myself up completely right now. And I feel so much more timid than before. And I don't know how to overcome it, because I feel like there was like a couple of things that happened, like with the pandemic. It was like right after pandemic, BLM happened. And then I was like, I felt like this pressure to do a podcast interview. And I was like, with a Black person. Right. And then I'm like, oh, does that seem just so tokeny? Like, then that seemed like overdoing, because every podcast I listened to was then bringing people of color on the podcast to talk about the thing. But just to have like this one moment for a second, you know what I mean? And then everyone went back to our normally like our regularly scheduled programming. And it was like, and then who do I ask? So then I don't know. I have been rendered mute basically for a year and a half. And it was like, I just didn't know like how to even go about it, you know? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm an Asian girl, so maybe I can be like in one way I can be neutral here because I am a person of color, but obviously my experience is not that of a Black person at all, not even close. But, you know, I'm like, I'm definitely an ally and all these things, but it just felt like, how do you do it right? You know? And because everyone was just sitting at home looking for things to either listen to and then criticize. I literally just couldn't take a step, you know? So I just have to commend your both. Yeah. Like everyone's getting canceled for saying the wrong thing, or like even with posting all the Black squares, if you did it a certain way, you were doing it wrong. Yeah. Like there was no right way to go about it. I didn't post a Black square because I'd read stuff about like, oh, we're, you know, clogging up the whatever, and now the people of color and what they have to say is not being seen because all these white people are posting their Black squares. So I didn't. And I still sometimes think, because I feel like it's so much more of a thing now, is that people will kind of vet you. Like they'll scroll back and like try to see what you're about. And I'm like, I bet people have scrolled back to see what I was doing at that time of year. They see I don't have a Black square and they think certain things about me. And it does feel, that whole thing, for one, the thing that I've only recently been able to like process is like, it happened. George Floyd died. Things kind of exploded. And for us who had any sort of Instagram following, there was this pressure to be speaking about it. But what if you weren't super educated about it before? Which was like a duh. There are people that aren't super educated. Isn't that the whole point of this thing? And I wasn't like incredibly naive, but I wasn't educated to the point that I felt I could join in and adding things to the discussion. And it was also like, I'm a white girl. I'm supposed to be letting other people talk, but also there's certain people that are like, I'm supposed to be promoting. So it's just like, like you're silent. There's a phrase, silence is whatever.
Violence.
Is that what it is? Silence is violence, or silence is
violence, because it was like the idea of like, oh man, are you kind of condoning, or you're not, I don't know, you're not encouraging the conversation.
Right. If you're not vocal about being an ally, then you're like, whatever, that you're being complicit.
Yes, that's what it is, complicit. I'm not condoning. And there were so many directions that I felt we were being told to go in. And it was like, there was so much pressure there. It was hard to decide what is right. And the truth is, there wasn't a clear right. It was like, you're probably going to get it wrong. Yeah.
And I think that there were more ways to get it wrong than to get it right, I think.
Yes. And I think that was new to so many of us. But really, that's just part of being an ally, is like, or I think, that's one thing I've learned about being an ally is like, you just have to try, and you're going to get it wrong, and you're going to get some backlash because you're not them, honestly. And that it is right to try. I don't know. I don't feel that I engaged as much as some would say I should have. I can't say that I engaged less than I could have. I think I did engage as much as I felt that I could. I did like repost the things that I vetted, you know, and because there was so much information going around, and it was like, well, I don't want to just repost. Like, I need to read this. Like, I need to learn about it. I need to not say, I mean, sometimes it was like, I need to make sure that all of this is accurate. Also, it was just like, that would be hypocritical if I was reposting and quote, educating people, but not educating myself. Yeah. Like there were in the beginning, for sure, I felt that there was no grace for needing some time to listen and like to be educated. You had to talk about how you were listening and being educated. And that's really hard. It's really hard to talk and listen at the same time.
Yeah. And I think what was getting lost a lot was intention. So people will often say the wrong thing or put the wrong set of words together, but the intention of what they're feeling or what they're trying to say would get lost,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest problem, I think, with social media is that you're only seeing like a little tiny segment
Mm-hmm.
of a phrase or a clip or or a caption or whatever, and like the greater
Mm-hmm.
picture of who a person is as a whole is totally
Yeah.
lost, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And
yeah.
like everything you're doing, like, it's like I have to prove all the ways that I'm being an ally when I actually just want to be an ally. I actually just want to like do the things, donate the money and not brag
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
it,
exactly. Exactly.
or
Donating. Like it's like,
yeah.
do I have to announce every time I donate to a cause? Because doesn't
Yeah.
that
Do I
seem
have
more
to prove that I
performative?
signed a petition? Yeah. Then you're
Exactly.
being performative. And
Exactly.
there was no way to do it perfectly. It was and still is incredibly volatile. And I can't say that I know the solution because it feels like there's a lot of people that are right and there's a lot of people that are entitled to the way that they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's a lot of wrong as well. And there's all of that. But it's like, I just want to be humble. I just want to listen. I just want to try to figure it out. And I don't know, but it was incredibly difficult and still is incredibly difficult. And the waters have calmed some. But I don't know. It feels like a little bit, I can imagine maybe feeling a little bit like, well, I haven't really engaged in it so far. Like, is it too late? To which I'm like, it shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's too
Shouldn't be
late.
too late.
I almost think it's better now because it is
Yeah.
quieter, and like even when I think about the podcast and who I want to bring on, like I'm like, okay, now it doesn't feel performative. Now it feels like I actually just like have discovered somebody that I would like to bring on and who happens to be a person of color. You know what I mean? And it's funny, even with Instagram, like when all that was happening, I said like I would like to highlight the work of Black artists and da da da. So please tag me. And there were like three artists. I was like, maybe that's the thing. There just aren't that many, or they're just not seeing my post. Who knows, right?
And I think like it was a struggle for them too, like for Black artists and Black businesses, like to all of a sudden be getting this attention.
Because they're like, wait, do I have to be the voice of this entire thing? Which is unfair too. It all felt really.
There's expectation all around, and no one was winning.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a lot was won and is still being won. Like change did happen.
And is happening, I hope, slowly.
And is happening.
Slow, but it is happening.
Yeah. And I don't know. It was so much. And yeah, I think like for Black artists and Black businesses who all of a sudden had this boom in attention and in purchases and this and that, like they had to come down from that because it did slow down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it wasn't easy for them either. And I can imagine them like not wanting to self-promote because they're like, I can't handle anymore.
Yeah.
And
that's funny. Yeah. There were people definitely saying that. They were like, oh, I can't take any commissions, but thank you so much.
Yeah. And I in a very different way experienced something somewhat parallel, like when Hank died, of this all of a sudden like show of support that was like such a gift. And also it was like, whoa, like why? Like, why do you want this? Like, is it because you feel sorry for me? Is it because you just discovered my work and you do like it? Like, I experienced both. Yeah, both. And at this point in time, I'm like, I think people like my work. Yeah. Like I question it a little less, but there was a very long time where I just couldn't really believe that like what I had was real. And like, it's just going to stop. Like people are going to move on from this sad story and forget about me. And it has slowed down. Like it is different. But also it's kept up obviously in a way that like, this is our family's income. But yeah, I felt like I was seeing that too of like, oh, this is so good for you. I hope that you don't crash and burn. Yeah. Wait, hang on. I hope you don't crash and burn. I hope that when time goes on and these things do slow down inevitably, I'm not saying they were just going to like drop off and end, but it's going to slow down. Like, it's not always going to be explosive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hope you still feel supported. I hope you still feel appreciated. I hope you still know your value, the value of your work, the value of you as a person. Like, when other people are not validating that all the time with their words or purchases, like, I felt like I saw that future, like, for so many people. And
well, I have to tell you, I mean,
struggle.
Even on the business end, okay, so without a huge traumatic thing in my life, right? I didn't have a huge traumatic thing, but the pandemic did happen. So I have to say, like, on the business side, right? So it was like March and April were like really hard because the demand was giant for fibers, but then I was like completely sold out because the production slowed down and couldn't keep up. But then all summer it was like boom. It was like crazy busy. I had never been that busy ever. Which was awesome because then I didn't have to think about the pandemic. I just was like packing orders all day long. Day long.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself now, because I have to say this summer I've been way slower. Even with, like, I just launched Meridian Recycled, like the whole container came and I've been really slow. Which is hard because then I'm like, oh, and then I have Super Soft coming in like 6 weeks, and I have no space for it because, like, I'm really not selling that much right now. So you had this double because of the timing, right? Because of when Hank died, and so you were getting more followers, more people knew who you were, what was going on, plus pandemic. So I don't know, like, so I guess I'm wondering how is this summer, how has it been business wise? Like, are you feeling like there is a major slowdown? Yes. Are you fearful? I have to tell you, I'm fearful. Like, I'm like, what's going on? And I get it. People are out and about, but there's always a part of me. And I don't know if it's my mom putting so much fear into me that my business is never going to last, because she did macrame in the 70s and she was a weaver and all these things. And then it died in the 80s and 90s. And she's like, she just, every time I talk to her, she's like, how's it going? What's going on? How are sales? Da-da-da. And she freaks me out about it. And this has been going on for already 6 years. That, ever since I started this business, she's been like, it's not going to last. What are you going to do afterward? So I don't know if it's her freaking me out and just like, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Does it feels like things are slowing down for you? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
May. So April, as far as online sales, was a pretty slow month for us, but I also did pinners. So I didn't freak out yet. May was crazy slow. June was crazy slow. July was pretty slow, but I tried a lot harder. So we made a little more money. So far August is looking okay. Like, we'll survive and stop digging or dwindling down our savings. But it has been tough. And man, so many nights have I like just laid in bed and thought, like, what the hell are we gonna do? Like, when this just stops, like, we have put all our eggs in this basket. And I knew all the while, like, this is a big leap. It's okay if it doesn't work. Like, we're taking this gamble, and that's what it is. It's a gamble. It's not that we're stepping onto something that is sustainable. We're just hoping that it will grow. And it did. Because of all of those reasons, partially, like, because we gained a lot of support when Hank died, because pandemic hit. I felt very insensitive, but I was like, it feels gross to say this, but like, we're the ideal business for a pandemic world.
I know.
We were.
I didn't know it. I didn't know that was going to be the case at all. I actually thought we were going to slow way down because people wouldn't have money to spend and people weren't going to work. And I really thought it was going to be the opposite. And then I was like, wait, where are all these people getting money from? Like, honestly.
Yeah, I know. I still am not quite certain, but I'm like, thanks anyway. But yeah, May, June, July have been really slow. August has been somewhat slow. And I've had to think, like, it's because people are finally vacationing for the first time in 2 years. They're taking the trips that they planned 2 years ago.
Right. And spending the money doing that instead of home, staying home and weaving and doing macrame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's true. Honestly, probably being on social media. I think people are probably on social media left because they're so like, oh, I'm over it. It's been so much the last year and a half. Like,
yeah, that's true.
To which I'm like, good for you, bad for me.
Yes.
Yeah,
totally.
And like, I don't know. Like, I can't say that I'm standing here super confidently that it's about to go up because people are about to come home from their vacations. Like, I don't know that. So I'm still very uncomfortable. I've had it in my head, like, we just have to make it through August. We just have to make it through August. I think September will be like,
markets happen, and
markets start happening.
Hit.
Yeah. We'll make it through the holiday season. And then, okay, question. When is this podcast going to be released?
Soon. So like, well,
okay.
I would say realistically, I mean, my husband edits it. So I'm hoping he'll do it this weekend, and then maybe launch, like, I don't know, so soon, sometime within a week, I hope.
Okay, so then you have to cut this next part out.
Okay.
I'm pregnant.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Wait, so when would you be able to announce that?
I'm gonna
How many weeks
announce. I'm 12. I turned 12 on Tuesday. We're gonna tell Louie on the 19th when I have my next appointment, just so I can hear the heartbeat once more. And I'll probably. And then I'm like, I don't know if I'll announce right after that, because right after that is Hank's birthday on the 27th, and then his
August
2-year. August 27th, and then it'll be 2 years that he died, September 17th. And so it sounds kind of gross to be like planning strategic around those dates, but I'm just like, I just know what I am on the internet, which is a little bit of a emotional roller coaster. And if I throw in a baby announcement in there, am I gonna be able to handle that? So I don't know. That's why I was asking. So I was about to say, like, we're gonna ride holiday, earnings, but then I'm gonna have a baby in February. Right. And who knows? So yeah, the knowledge of that coming. I'm going to stop talking about this in a second because
no, it's okay. I made note of the time. Hold on. 1:02. 1:02. Okay. Just so I know, like, when.
Yeah,
oh my God, I'm so excited.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're really excited. And yeah, but that has gone into like how stressful these past slow months has come. I'm like, shoot, and then I have
on top of everything. Yeah.
Oh, but yeah. Okay. So cut that conversation and try to remember what we were talking about.
Slow months.
Yeah. Slow months. I had it in my head. We just kind of have to get through August, and then I'm pretty sure September will be somewhat normal.
Yeah.
Again. But it's just really hard. And I feel like I hear the same lies of like, you were just a fad, you were just a phase, and this isn't actually sustainable. And, I've kind of, when Hank died and I got this like huge show of support, and then my kid explosion happened, I was like, this is awesome, but it's probably not real. Like, it's probably going to end. I got over that. Like, I finally was able to like stand on my own feet and say, like, I don't know exactly how the pace of this is going to be forever, but I know that this is good. Like, my product is good. I do have value. People do like my work. And then these slow months happened, and I'm like,
I know.
This thing that I've been fearing the whole time, it feels like it's being validated, but also it's not exactly, because there are different factors at play.
There really are. Yeah.
The pandemic shifted.
Yeah.
And just, who knows? Like, no one knows what the world is like on the other side of this thing, or even when the other side of this thing is going to happen.
I know. And I kind of feel like I hate to say it, but I don't think there's going to be an other side. Like, I think we're just going to have to live with COVID forever. Because it's going to keep mutating. You know what I mean? There's going to be more variants, and we're just going to have to figure out vaccines and whatever. I don't know where you stand on that, but like, hopefully more people get vaccinated, and then But
even with that, I mean, this is probably pretty negative. It feels like the ball is probably still pretty far down that track.
Yeah.
Like, yes, people need to get vaccinated. We got vaccinated. I'll get a freaking booster shot. Yeah. If it becomes, available to me, I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not exactly confident that will make as much change that needs to happen. Mm-hmm. That's pretty negative, but no, I know. I just don't disagree that like, this is going to be a part of our world. Hopefully it becomes more mild, like the flu. I feel like it's going to be like the flu. Yeah. Yeah. Like something that is for sure not to be taken lightly, and also a regular part of our life, not this thing that like we were in the same room as someone and we had to shut down our life for 2 weeks. Yeah. Like that's not going to be sustainable. I'm not saying that it doesn't deserve that amount of caution, but just.
No, I agree. It's not going to be sustainable. Yeah. And people aren't going to go under lockdown again. Like I really don't think so.
I don't think so.
Nobody having it,
Yep. Yeah. Nope. It's tough.
Yeah. This is totally kind of random, but I've been just wondering, how old was Louis when Hank died?
He was about to turn 3. So Louis and Hank are 23 months apart. Okay. Exactly. Hank was a year and 3 weeks exactly when he died. And Hank died on September 17th, and Louis' 3rd birthday is September 27th. Oh, wow. So yeah, the fall's a mess for us.
Yeah. God, it must be. And in so many, maybe it'll be nice being a little bit slow for a month and then, pick up late at the very end of September.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
How has he been handling everything?
Oh,
I mean, kids are so malleable, and he was young, I guess. Mm-hmm. So,
but I love talking about Louis. So I'm actually I don't think that I've really talked too much about him on a podcast or really much. So, Louis has done well. Every mama crow thinks that their babies are the blackest. I just butchered that saying, but Louis really is. It sounded like every crow thinks that theirs is the blackest.
I was like, girl, you just got canceled.
I wish that I would have just not said that, but it came out.
I'm kidding. I don't know a lot of sayings because my parents are Korean and, like Korean born, so they don't know any sayings. So I always mess them up.
My point is every mom thinks that their kid is awesome. I think my kid's awesome. Louis has a pretty high emotional intelligence level and always has been. He's always been very verbal. He was not even 2 years old when Hank died. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, he was not even 2 years old when Hank was born. Mm-hmm. And he, for real, just got it. Like from day one, he was all in on baby and helping me with baby. Like he was my partner for real. And so Hank dying was not this abstract thing that I ever thought wasn't really going to phase him much. Like it was humongous. Mm-hmm. It was, Hank was his brother for half of his life so far at that point, and so because of that, like even telling him, like we could have a real conversation about it because he was pretty articulate. He did understand. There was a little while where it's like he would forget in certain moments. Like there were weeks where often Louis would wake up first and Hank would wake up second, and Louis would hear Hank and we'd be eating breakfast and he'd say, I think Hank's awake. That was like every morning. This was our thing. And in the morning after Hank died at night, Louis was asleep, and that next morning we're sitting down at breakfast and Louis says, I think Hank's awake. Oh my God. And I said, he's not. And I wasn't able to spit it out yet. And then a little while later, it was like, is Hank up yet? When's he going to wake up? And I put him on my lap and he kind of explained, like, how last night we had to go to the hospital with Hank. And the summary of that is he was struggling to breathe. And the doctors tried really hard and they weren't able to fix him. And it's okay. I didn't say Hank died because he didn't know what that word is yet. But I said, like, Hank's in heaven now and Jesus is going to take care of him and we're going to miss him a lot. That is that is a thing that we believe, that Hank isn't heaven, that Jesus is taking care of him. And also that doesn't like wash away that Hank's dead, like that Hank is not coming back. And so we've had to purposefully have sentences like that. Like Hank is not coming back. Hank is not going to be playing. Hank is to explain to a 3-year-old, like help him fully grasp the finality of this.
Yeah.
There's a little while where like he would forget. And the way that I saw it is like, we as adults go through little moments of denial too. And for him as a 3-year-old, his moments of denial looked like he actually forgot.
Yeah.
That wore off, after a couple of months, and we got him into play therapy really quickly. I think I say really quickly, it's probably like within 2 months. Mm-hmm. And that was amazing for him and for me. I feel like it was an equal benefit. Just me to feel like I had someone else to help me like steer him through mm-hmm. that, because it was like, I didn't know how to do it. Like, how do I care for him? Like, I've known how to be his mom until this point. I do not know how to be his mom in this. I don't know how to help him be okay. I was about to say make sure he's okay, but like we can't ever make sure that they're okay. Like we just do our best. And I had no idea how to do that. So play therapy was an awesome tool for us.
And even like, how do you decide which words you use when you're talking about it,
Yeah, you just,
because I know you're never to lie to them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was the big thing. Is like, we're never going to lie to you. And also like, we're going to try to be very careful with like, for example, we cremated Hank, and I never explained that to him mm-hmm. because I didn't know how to explain that to him in a way that wasn't like horrifying. But he has asked, like, because he'll see, like, a cemetery. He's like grown to know what a cemetery is, and he's asked, like, think of a grave, and I just say no and kind of hope that we move past it. And one day I will explain stuff like that. But like, it's just kind of impossible.
Did you keep the ashes or?
Yeah, we have an urn, and we didn't scatter him, but what Casey and I have done is like in significant moments or experiences, we'll bring a little pinch. We have like an urn locket and we'll release them then. And it's just kind of a thing that Casey and I have freedom. Like we went to Disneyland in April and I brought my locket, and when we were walking out on the last day, I dropped some ashes. Just and what we have said is like dropping his ashes are an act of saying, I wish you were here. Yeah. It's not letting him go. It's not anything like that. It's including him. It's saying, I wish you were here. And I will give Louis some one day too. I'll try to do it in a way that is like, this is yours for you, not like this is mine to give you. Because that's a thing, is like letting him navigate it on his own and being there to support him, but also not like telling him how he feels, like helping him realize how he feels, but not like, my grief is my grief and I will feel this and carry this not in the same way as him. And I want to make sure of that. Like, I don't expect you to not be untouched by this, and also I don't expect you to like have the same wound that I have. That's tricky. But he's done really great. It's very normal for us to talk about Hank, and I just do it in a way that's just normal, not like, let's talk about your dead brother now, but just like oh, sweet potatoes, that was Hank's favorite food, and, just like little things like that.
That seems like the most healthy way to go about it, instead of, you always hear about people, but when they get older and they'll go, I had a sibling that died, but my parents never talked about it. And
yes,
I have no idea who that person was, because they, they just become a ghost or whatever.
I was terrified of that. Like, I don't want to magnify this or minimize this for you. And he's led the way on like how to handle that. I remember he would bring it up to like his preschool classes, and his teacher would tell me, and I, kind of tell them like, thanks for sharing that. Like, please let him do that. Like, don't feel like you have to like, I don't know. It's just like, for example, like they would read a book and maybe it had a sibling in it, and Louis would say, I have a brother named Hank, he lives in heaven. And I tell the teachers, like, you can say like, oh, that's awesome. Like, you can talk about Hank in the present too. And because that's how we do it, is we talk about Hank in the present, and because he's still relevant. He's still a relevant thing for us. And that's kind of how we've steered Louis in that. I mean, we've had like, Christmas is hard. It'll probably be always complicated, but like, I remember this year when we were going to go buy our tree, we had dinner and then we were going to go get our tree afterwards, and Casey was getting teary, and Louis said, Daddy, what's wrong? And Casey said, like, I'm just missing Hank right now. And Louis started crying too. Mm-hmm. And then I started crying, and we just kind of had this like cry sesh as a family, but like, it wasn't a long conversation. Like, we just know, like, it's just a part of us, and it's not something we always have to like deeply flesh out. It's just our norm. And he's awesome. And he honestly teaches me so much. And it's truly like been an honor to be his mom, because I just think he's so amazing. And he's helped me feel normal about certain things. And I've tried to encourage him to feel normal about certain things. And I wish I had more like stories to like articulate those things, but of course not many of them are coming to mind right now.
Always whenever you need to talk about it, and it's like, there were so many. Will he be going to school this fall?
Not kindergarten, but he'll be going to like a transitional kindergarten at his same preschool. Mm-hmm. And then, he'll go to kindergarten next year, which I'm like, great. I wasn't ready for kindergarten yet.
Yeah, I know. You just want to hold on to him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What a crazy journey you've been through. And I'm like a sobbing mess now. That's the thing is like, I imagine you now have to, because you live with it every day, right? Mm-hmm. That you end up having to comfort other people about it, like about how to be around you. And then like, maybe it was more so before, like right after it all happened. But
I think I felt a little more struggle than the beginning of like, I don't know what I'm doing, and somehow I'm teaching other people. But also like, I think that that's okay. I think that that is the right way to go about it as someone who is grief adjacent. Like, how to care for a friend is like, you do have to ask a lot of questions. Like it's not like specific questions. Like I hate the, like, let me know if you need anything. You say, you say, what do you need today?
Yeah.
What do you need right now? Do you need anything from the grocery store? Do you need a day off? Like, do you need,
can I clean your house?
Yeah. And as difficult as it is, but like the person who has less, it's like, you just have to say yes. Like, you have to accept that people are wanting to support you, and just be honest, and don't be shy about like accepting a gift. Like, let them gift you, because that's what they can do, and it feels good to them too. Mm-hmm. I think that was a little difficult for me to accept at first, is like, it's actually not good to say no because they feel rejected. Like, just let them. Yeah. But I think a big thing that I have kind of learned to stand in is like, my grief is my grief, and I'm in charge of it. And so if I want to feel supportive, I have to let people be a part of that. Like, I will every now and then text like my best friends, like, hey, I'm just gonna like Hank vomit pictures to you, and I'll just send them pictures of him and tell them about it. And I say, like, you don't have to respond, but like, that's me inviting them in, like, to be a part of it with me, especially on like a pretty intimate level like that. And you have to be willing to share. Otherwise, like, people can't support you. Like, I don't know. So I guess it's like being open sometimes looks more like inviting. And I'm okay with that now because I've accepted, like, it is mine. I'm in charge of me. So it's like, also, if something doesn't feel good, if someone, says something, I can't even name an example, but, someone said, and I won't say who it was, but someone recently was being a butthead about sharing. Mm-hmm. And they said, only child syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Cringe.
And it's like, I see how that came out because Louis does live his everyday life as if he were an only child. Mm-hmm. And later I just had to pull that person aside and say, hey, Louis is not an only child.
Yeah.
And they immediately understood what they'd said. Like, I can have grace for it. And also, it's up to me to speak up when things don't feel good. And a lot of times I am within my rights to be a jerk.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all of that. People are going to say stupid things because people don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know either. Mm-hmm. So
until it happens, right? Until you're like, wait a minute. No, that was not okay. Yeah.
Yes. And with that, it's just a matter of like learning to properly listen to yourself and learning to value your thoughts and your feelings and act on that. I have to do that first. I have to be my advocate first before I can really expect people to know how to navigate me. And I've learned to be okay with that and not like resentful that there's like work in being someone who's lost someone. Like there just is. And that's okay.
Is this coming to you like intuitively, or have you gone through a lot of therapy?
I go through a lot of therapy.
Okay.
I found my counselor, I don't know, a month or so after he died. And I've seen her weekly since. I actually just went to bi-weekly because funds are a little low. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, the support that I get for her is honestly more often just to comfort than it is like we're trying to solve a big thing nowadays. There was a long time where it was like impossible scenarios right and left, and she was helping me untangle knots really rapidly. There's lots of the knots are coming a little less often now, and still it's still good for me, like to have that comfort, to know that like if anything does happen, like I have an appointment. I see someone regularly, my safe space, like my person who has been in it the whole time. But yeah, I go to a lot of therapy and I read a lot of therapy related books, and some things have come intuitively, but most of it has been gifted to me.
Yeah. No, that's great. It's great you found even a therapist that you connected with and like early on, because I think sometimes that's the hard part, is finding someone who you actually like being around that often, and or someone who gets you. So that's great.
Yeah.
I know that your faith that you have a very faithful life and faith-filled life. Has that changed throughout all of this, or have you sometimes I can't believe it. I'm like, oh my God, like how, because I grew up Christian and in the church and everything, but it just I don't know, you try to put myself in your shoes, and I just keep thinking like I feel like I would be so angry, like, and just I don't know if I could keep it the way that you have, or the way that you speak about it. Has it evolved for you, or does it stay the same?
Yeah, it has evolved. So I was not raised in the church. My dad was raised Jewish. My mom was raised not really much of anything. So my upbringing was like, God's on the table if you want it, but there wasn't a lot of pressure. And like, we didn't go to temple or anything like that regularly. And I became a Christian when I was 16. I'm super grateful that that's my story, because as I've become an adult and kind of navigated faith culture more and more, I just kind of see that like because there wasn't a ton ingrained in me, I have had a lot of space to ask questions, and like my faith is mine, and
it's stronger because you chose it. I
chose it,
absolutely
and
believe that.
It's mine.
Yeah. Because mine was pressured onto me, and then I was like, I went through all these questions, and then still I have questions, but I'm not allowed to ask those questions in my family, you know? So Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super protective of like Louis, and like his experience won't be mine. And also like I want him to know without a doubt this is not an expectation for you. Like I need you to make your own decisions. Like I do not want you to have this moment where you wake up and you realize you don't believe any of the things you thought you did, and that these things were just like force fed through you. And so all of that is just to say like I have asked a lot of questions, the last 2 years, but also I think I already had a somewhat unique perspective of God in that, like, I never believed that he was a safe God. Like, I did know that he lets bad things happen. I feel like there's this, oh man, I can't remember the title of it, but like there's this segment of Christianity that prosperity gospel. Okay. So it's like this, if you just pray for good things, God will give you good things. If you pray for God to not give you bad things, he won't give you bad things. And this idea that like you can somewhat earn a good life, whether that's through being
donating
a good person or donating
tithing,
and being a regular, like being a regular church attendee and, just really looking the look, and asking God for the right things and praying the right prayers. And like, I already knew that was bullshit. And so I didn't really have many moments of feeling abandoned. And that's because I don't believe that God killed Hank. Like, I don't believe that God's will works that strictly. I don't think that he was like, I'm going to let this thing happen and there will be some sort of causation. I think that shit just happens. And that's not to say that God doesn't have power. But he doesn't smite people. Like, he doesn't kill baby. That's not who God is. That's not God's will. I very quickly was like, God didn't do that. He did let it happen, and we have those conversations, and I am mad at him about that. And also I know that he's sad for me. Like, I don't think that he was just standing there saying it was in the plan, bummer. Like, he was saying, this is awful. This is horrible. This is not the way that it's supposed to be. I love you. I love him. Like, I think he was sad with me. And that's just a really different God than I feel is commonly talked about. So yeah, like my faith has matured and I've wrestled with him in this year, like, and that's going to bring about intimacy, just like fights with my husband are going to bring about intimacy. It's just part of having a relationship. I think a big thing is like, I've grown to know my need so much more. Like, when you are broken and shattered, like, I know I'm gonna feel the need to like cling to him more and to be reading my Bible and talking to him, like, I'm gonna feel that need. So that's also gonna grow my faith. And I don't know, I just think,
do you feel your faith is stronger now, actually, because of how much you've needed to rely on God to find comfort and you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, yes and no. It probably is.
It sounds like it was always pretty strong. Like, since you have decided, like since you were 16 and decided that this is what, you believe. It sounds like it was always pretty strong.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And man, there was one more thing that I was going to say and I can't remember it now, but I think just like not believing in a God that holds certain promises. Like, I was never promised safety or a good future or like a long life for me or my children. I was never promised that. What I was promised is that he'd be with me always. I know that. I knew that. I know that even more now. Like, and sometimes it's comforting and sometimes it feels not enough, and I just hash it out with him. And in terms of like trusting God, that's another thing that like sometimes triggers me. I'm like, well, what am I trusting him for?
Right.
Am I supposed to trust him to not let a bad thing happen to me? Guess what? He does.
Yeah. Yeah.
What am I supposed to be trusting? And I'm like, I mean, the trust is that he never leaves me. Like, the trust is that he loves me all the while. Like, the trust is that he's staying the same when all sorts of things change. Like, sometimes that doesn't feel like enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do hold things up to him and say, I don't trust you with this. I know that I would like to, you know, like, I think he loves that. I think he loves that type of relationship. And that is how we've navigated this. It's just with some blunt honesty.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just because I believe in staying ultimately hopeful, but I feel like the way that I'm thinking about it is that when bad things happen, it's to make room somehow in your life for something else. But I mean, that just sounds callous when it comes to like death of a child. That you can't. I don't think there is a way you can make sense of it.
No.
You just have to accept.
Like, some things are just shitty.
Yeah.
And we can't like tie a pretty bow onto that and give it causation, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
No, sometimes bad things are just bad things.
Yeah.
Sometimes bad things do lead to good things, you know, but I think it's like the order of events there is what we have off. Like, good things have happened since Hank died. Absolutely. But that's not why Hank died.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I believe in a God with purpose, and he can bring purpose into every part of life. But that's not to say he gave Hank's death purpose. That is still just a bad thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
it does. It does.
Okay, good.
Well, I have to say, you sound like the healthiest person who's had to grieve this completely, you know?
I appreciate that.
So I am happy that you're in this place in your life right now. And I think you're just such a beautiful person, beautiful artist. I don't know if we didn't talk enough about the fiber art part, but
we didn't a ton, but this was good, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Just you know, I only wish for good things for you, and I'm so happy that we finally got a chance to really chat. And you know, it's a amazing story, and yeah, I'm really excited for your next year and all the things you're gonna do and announce and all that stuff.
I'm excited for you and finding your voice again and being uncomfortable, and all of our sales are going to go back up. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
And
yeah, let's hope I get some balls. I don't know. Like I, even with the Instagram stuff, it's like, just, I'm like that, the I don't know, stereotypical Asian who just won't speak up. And I'm just like, oh no, I'm just going to be quiet over here and see what happens and be an observer. But it's like, you know what? Also, I was raised that way, just to make sure that I was always told to just, you know, blend in. And so that's what I've been doing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think like sharing and like being vulnerable in front of others, like it is a little bit like a muscle, in that like when you develop the habit and that becomes like part of your process, the easier it gets. And it is so hard like to start that because you don't know how to do it in your way. But you can, like you can show up and like show who you are, and not everyone's going to like it.
Yeah.
Like,
that's the thing I can't deal with. I cannot deal with criticism at all. Like I can't deal with, you know, mean commenters. Not that I've had that many. I had like one lady that like, I posted something about being in the Fold magazine, which is like a feminist magazine. And she was like, feminist my ass. Like something like that.
Oh gosh.
And I like immediately deleted the comment. And then I stupidly messaged her. And it was like, good to see you don't support women. Like, nice woman you are, you know? Yeah. She was like, no, feminism is bullshit because women get paid just as much as men and all this stuff. And I was like,
oh, gosh.
I'm like, why am I even having this conversation? But, you know, of course, I ruminated on it for like 3 days. Now I'm still, this happened like 2 years ago and I still remember it. So clearly I'm not over it.
Mean,
one bad comment.
Don't think that we don't all do that, because I do. Casey is absolutely like my PR person. I filter so many things through him, especially when I'm heated. Like, okay, I know that we're closing this conversation, so I'm going to keep this part short. But so I had back in March when I had my like petty AF thing, when that lady was like super rude to me. So when I was sharing about that, all of my videos and me telling that story, that was like the 5th take. Because Casey, I kept being like, okay, how about this? And he'd be like, you look crazy. You need to tone it down. Like, find a way to bring humor into this because it is okay.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to share about this, and also share about it in a way that doesn't make people like, ooh.
Right. But also, maybe we should. That's the thing. I think the ideal
also,
is to go,
it would have been okay
first
if
take,
I did.
Yeah. First take, I'm this angry, or I'm this hurt, or I'm this crazy, because I'm a human being and I have freaking emotions, you know?
Sorry, you cut out for a minute.
I was just saying that, like, maybe the ideal is to just do the first take and show how vulnerable and how angry and how the gamut of human emotions that we have. You know, maybe we should stop editing so much. I say this, but I for sure edit everything. There's no way I'm gonna put out first take, you know, but I wish I could. I'm so in awe of all the people who can be outspoken and be the things that also make me cringe, because I'm like, but they own it. They own themselves 100%, and they don't care. They do not give a shit. And I want to be that person. It's so hard, you know, it's so hard because
You're
I
just
can't
not there yet.
Yeah. I'm super sensitive.
Me too.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, I think that would be part of it, is like, yes, it would be helpful if we were just real humans all the time. Like, how many conversations will we just get over with instead of like beating around the bush, and, you know, and like being honest with our questions too, and not worrying about like, am I asking this the wrong way? Am I asking this in an offensive way? Like, maybe say that I'm afraid of being offensive. Can I ask this question? And you can be honest back. You can tell me, don't ever articulate that again. You know, like if we were just so fully honest in that way, it would be so helpful.
I know. Even this conversation with you, I wanted to ask you a year ago and be like, I really want to talk about what you're going through. But I was like, I can't ask her that. She's mourning, you know, like I did. So I didn't
we had a relationship. Like, I've done podcast interviews with people that like didn't know me. So like, I get that. And like, get that, like, you pursuing me for a conversation like that is kind of different than like a lot of other people on the internet.
Yeah. No, but even then I was like, so of course this is delayed at, you know, a year and a half or whatever, because I'm like, no, I seriously have thought about it every other day for the last year, being like, but I really want to talk to her. I don't know. So I'm stupid. I need to get out of my own way.
There's a little bit of that in all of us, but I'm glad we've had it, no matter what the timing is.
Me too.
And you know, our conversation today would have looked different 6 months ago. So
It's true.
You got this one instead.
Yeah. Well, I loved every minute of it, honestly. And
thanks.
I just wanted to say thanks for coming on, and you know,
thanks for having me.
I will see you on the internet. And
we will see you.
Obviously, if you ever need to reach out or anything, and just feel free always.
I appreciate that.
All right.
Talk
to you later. Bye.
Thanks again. Bye.
Bye. Check the show notes of each episode to get the website and Instagram for each of the fiber artists I speak with. Be sure to give them a follow. And you can view video from this podcast on niromastudio.com/thefiberartistpodcast. If you enjoy the Fiber Artist Podcast, go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening.